I'm going to make another very healthy dish, and all these items are good for you. You could Google them separately. I mean, you can Google them anytime you... Turmeric, read up on that. Fresh garlic, and the fresh garlic should only be used really crushed, and there's a reason for that. You'll Google that and find out, and put it in at the very end. There's a little cooking to the garlic can be done, the more benefit it is. Celery I'm putting in there for taste, and it's 0 calories. Shallots for flavor, and ginger, very beneficial. So what am I doing with this stuff? We're going to take a spaghetti squash and a Delicata squash, which I'm going to cut in half, take out the seeds, season it, and bake it off. And the same thing with the acorn squash. Cut it out, cut it in half, take the seeds and bake it. Season it. I'm going to saute all of this. You can use butter if you want, but I'm using olive oil. And then I'm going to brush the squashes with that and bake them off. Butternut squash will be put flesh down, the others will be flesh up. And when we're all done, we're going to stuff the squashes, the acorn and the delicata, with the spaghetti squash. So it should have a nice, it should look good, hopefully. I preheated, no, I shouldn't say preheat. I heated the oven to 400, and I'm going to put some olive oil on here. That's a coated pan, but I still like to cover it with aluminum foil, easy to clean. And the butternut squash, it's very difficult to cut in half. Anyway, if you wanted to, you could start it off roasting it whole, maybe a half hour or so, and when you feel that it's soft enough for you to cut, but not too soft, because then it won't work. So I'm putting this in the oven now. While the butternut squash is cooking, I'm going to get the other two ready, but first I have to saute this. And this is really meant for the spaghetti squash after we turn it into spaghetti. This is going to be mixed with it, plus some cranberries. Cranberries are healthy for you. Of course, the fresh ones are more healthy than the dried cranberries because they have sugar, but you know what? It's a little bit. So I'm going to saute this. We're going to sprinkle this with salt and pepper, flesh up, brush some of the olive oil that's in there on this, and bake off the acorn squash and the delicata. Now it looks like they're going to stay level, so you don't have to cut the bottoms. Now we can sprinkle the squash with a little sugar. This has a nice aroma. That's ready to go in the oven. Since I saw honey, I go, you know what, forget the sugar, we'll just use honey. And this was my measuring for the oil, so if you put the honey in there like so, because it's coated with oil, watch how easy it flows out. Usually you have a hard time getting all of the honey out. And one more. Now when I'm done with this recipe, if I feel that the honey is overpowering everything, I'll just delete some of it from the description, the recipe. So that takes care of that. Now I'm going to mix that up. With a brush, because I'm going to brush the squash. And after I brush the squash, then I'm going to just season it with a little salt and pepper. Hey, that's good. Shut that off. Move this out of the way. Put the squash here. And I'm just going to do one piece, because you're going to do all the same. All of them the same. Take the mix and just brush. Now we get some salt and pepper. Like I say in my recipes, I use sea salt, and it's dark, which means it hasn't been as refined as regular sea salt. If it makes a difference, I don't know. But that's salt and pepper. Put that. Do each of those. Now I'm going to throw that in the oven. Now to the mix I added cranberries. I didn't measure it, but it looks like 2/3 of a cup, and 1 teaspoon of turmeric. Very healthy items. It's funny, the old world cooking knew what they were doing. But here in this country, all you have in the supermarket are rows of sugar-coated cereals, man-made products, really not good for you. I try to do everything fresh as possible. Nothing in the can. And pickles, you know, pickles are great. Anyway, that takes care of that. So when the spaghetti squash is done, it cools off. You take a fork and we'll shred it. It'll look like spaghetti. We'll season it with this mix, the olive oil and what's in there. And like I said, you could use butter if you want. Now you know when the squash is done, when you take a knife and it goes through easily. And the spaghetti squash, the same thing. And if you were to make this too soft, then you wouldn't be able to scrape it out. So what we're going to do here, we're going to let this cool down. I'm going to cut each half into quarters. And this is more or less like a vegetable side. You don't have to do that. If you're in the mood to eating all of this and filling it up with the mixture of the butternut, that's fine. And the same thing with this. These will look more like boats. Cut those in half. It has to look good to taste good. Now what I did first was cut this end off where the stem is, because that's extremely hard, as you can see. And the other squash I had already trimmed before baking, so that's ready. Now these would be nice to put out if you're having a little buffet. You want to set up a nice large dish. You put the spaghetti squash inside, and you can arrange these around. So next step, I have to wait for the butternut squash to cool down before you handle it. Now we'll go about shredding the squash. Just take a fork and go like so. And as you see, it comes out like spaghetti. That's what I call it, spaghetti squash. So do this to both pieces. Now, if you would have cooked the squash too much, it would probably come out like mush. Okay? Finish that up, do it to both pieces. I sprinkled salt and pepper over that, and I added 2 tablespoons of fresh parsley to the mix. Now I'll just take this and, not to lose any of the flavor in there, just put a little squash in the pan, swirl it around a little bit. Get what's in there. Now this could have been cooked in the microwave, but I would think that it would come out too moist, the spaghetti squash. The other squash you could cook in the microwave. Now this is the part you have to be gentle with this. So I'm going to take my pasta fork. I'm going to cook pasta with one of these and fluff this up a little. Mix it without breaking it. And I think the amount of goodies that I had in that pan was the right amount to mix with this. Now you could fold in melted butter into this too. But like I said, I'm using olive oil. That's it. Everything is stuffed. Then you would put those in the oven and either put them on a large platter when you have 2, 4, 6, 8 people over. And you put spaghetti squash on a plate like so. And that's it. And you have a healthy squash side dish, or even dinner. Enjoy.